The Last of Us Episode 6 dives deeper into Joel's life than we ever have before. The camera follows him closely so we can feel his anxieties, his insecurities, and his phantom pain aching from the past. When the player controls Joel in the video game, he is a brutal and capable fighter, but in the show, he's afraid. This change works for the show because it ties further into the story's thematic elements about protecting the ones you love most. It's also probably more realistic. I mean, Joel's kinda old, so. The episode is a faithful Cliff Notes version of the entire month of fall for Joel and Ellie, with scenes that are line for line in the video game. Any deviations or shakeups made to the story are either made to condense the game's plot by cutting out the plethora of combat sections, or it is in service of foreshadowing The Last of Us Part 2. The dam is briefly mentioned but largely avoided to instead get the audience acquainted with the calmer side of Tommy's home in Jackson, Wyoming. The snowy streets aren't present in The Last of Us Part 1, but play a major role in The Last of Us Part 2. Moving the events of fall into this side of Jackson is a smart way to lay the groundwork for Season 2 of the show early on. Conversations between Joel and Ellie foreshadow aspects of the sequel, and there's even a quick cameo of a character that isn't introduced until the second game. Being able to revise the first game's impeccable story to better lead into the second game like this shows that Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann are masters at adaptation. It gives fans of the game something good to chew on while enriching the second season's narrative before it even starts. This episode also delivers on the best bonding moments between Joel and Ellie so far. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey perfectly capture Joel and Ellie's banter between the more intense situations they find themselves in. And Gabriel Luna's performance as Tommy beautifully accompanies Joel's sorrow towards the world. Their interactions are a dramatic balancing act, teetering between love and hate. It's a heartfelt dynamic of brotherly love that binds the two together despite any annoyances they have against each other. While much of the narrative moves at a breakneck speed to cram in the game's entire fall season into one episode, the story rarely buckles under the weight of its own pacing, with the only exception being the finale. The entire Colorado University section is truncated into just a few scenes with most of the action taken away. This is where we see Joel get seriously injured for the first time, and now Ellie needs to care for herself out in the wild. The prospect of Ellie having to endure and survive without Joel is hinted at early on in the episode thanks to Joel's oversleeping. But the episode's end doesn't give Joel bleeding out enough time to breathe. The audience needs to sit with this shocking moment just like Ellie, and the pacing undermines the scene's severity. Regardless, Episode 6 is another successful retelling of The Last of Us that understands the heart of Joel and Ellie the most.
Ellie? You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.